Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turned out a poem 762. The whole of it came not at once. Of course, the antecedent to the pronoun it is going to have a whole lot to do, no pun intended, with how we read this poem. This is going to be another pain poem. This is going to be another poem about struggle, about suffering. Some will read this as another Sue poem. Although for Farr, it's not, the scholar Farr, it's not actually listed as a Sue poem, but there will be a number who will in fact read it that way. Now in many ways, we're back to poem 315. You guys will remember this one. He fumbles at your soul as players at the keys before they drop full music on. He stuns you by degrees, prepares your brittle nature for the ethereal blow by fainter hammers further heard than nearer. Then so slow your breath is time to straighten, your brain to bubble cool, deals one imperial thunderbolt that scalps your soul, your naked soul. When winds take forests in their paws, the universe is still. You guys will remember when we did 507. We played this game. She sights a bird, she chuckles, she flattens, then she crawls. She runs without the look of feet. Her eyes increase to balls, her jaws stir twitching hungry. Her teeth can hardly stand. She leaps, but Robin leaped the first, pussy of the sand. The hope so juicy ripening, you almost bathed your tongue when bliss disclosed 100 toes and fled with every one. Now we're going to call this a theodicy, that is to say, a poem that's trying to address the question of pain and suffering in the worlds. She'll call it Murder by Degrees. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily's our playlist. I'm hopeful that you've worked through our set of introductory comments as well as the preceding 761 poems. We just finished with 761 from Blank to Blank, another theodicic poem, another poem about pain and suffering and the like. Now, Emily has some pain in this poem. She'll call it thirst behind this poem, but we're not exactly sure what it is. She'll never tell us. Also, there is a cat and mouse game that gets played here, and it isn't clear. Is she talking about Sue? Is she talking about Sambo? Is she talking about somebody else? That we don't know. I do want you to pay attention, though, to the dark tone of this voice, if you could, please, really quickly for us, as we work through it. The whole of it came not at once. 'Twas murder by degrees, a thrust, and then for life a chance, the bliss to cauterize. The cat reprieves the mouse. She eases from her teeth just long enough for hope to tease, then mashes it to death. 'Tis life's award to die, contentiner if once, then dying half, then rallying for consciouser eclipse. Now, a number of words in this poem are only used one and only one time by Emily. We'll point them out as we go. Notice whole is capitalized. The it of this poem, whatever it is, pain, suffering, it didn't come all at once, but rather murder by degrees. In other words, it happened slowly over time. There's that famous, of course, idea of how you boil a frog to death by slowly allowing it to happen. She'll call it, though, a thrust, which I think is the key word of the poem. And then, for life, a chance, the bliss to cauterize. Now, cauterize is only used once in all of Emily's poetry, and it is here. It's interesting that in her poetry, she doesn't use often this word thrust. We'll see it again in 1407. We'll see it in 1758, right at the very end of our study together. She'll say it this way: where every bird is bold to go and bees a bashless play, the foreigner before he knocks must thrust the tears away. Notice it is a thrust, and then for life, notice capitalized, a chance, the bliss to cauterize. She'll use bliss in 39 of her poems, by the way. And then she'll give a word picture to talk about what it exactly is she's saying. The cat reprieves the mouse, gives the mouse a chance. She eases from her teeth. By the way, notice it's she here. And some have read this as Emily's referencing to the same she of 479. She dealt her pretty words like blades, how glittering they shone, and everyone unbarred a nerve or wanted with a bone. She never deemed she hurt, that is not steel's affair, a vulgar grimace in the flesh, how ill the creatures bear. To ache is human, not polite, the film upon the eye, mortality's old custom, just locking up to die. This idea that there is the cat and mouse game, and here the cat playing with the mouse. Notice she eases the mouse from her teeth. By the way, notice we go from teeth to tease. Just long enough for hope to tease. Now, she'll use tease in 8 words. In 8 poems. We can't help but think of this word and immediately think of Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn, doth tease us out of thought. We'll see it again in 872. We'll see it in 874. We'll see it in 1099 when we come to those poems. We'll remind ourselves as well. But once she lets the mouse have a little bit of reprieve, she mashes it to death. By the way, mashes only gets used one and only one time, and it's here. And then she'll say it. 'Tis life's award. Back to, of course, the third line, life and chance. 'Tis life's award, she says, to die. This is pretty dark. To die, contenteder if once, by the way, contenteder only used once in her poetry, it's here, then dying half, then rallying for conscientious eclipse. Conscientious shall only use one time as well. This idea of by the way, totaler was the variant reading of this word. All right, what exactly is it Emily's arguing here? I think she's arguing that it's better to die, however you wish to understand that word, all at once than piece by piece. In other words, a slow death is worse in relationships than a sudden death. And to be the word choice here, the words used, as we pointed out, only one time, especially cauterize and mashes. And of course her word tease as well. At 3a, how are we going to relate this? Well, you'll remember in our study of Machiavelli's Prince that he makes the argument that if you're going to inflict terrific pain, you should do it all at one time and not over a period of time, for very similar reasons to what Emily's playing with here. And again, we mentioned Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn for sure. Finally, to own a poem like this at 3b, do you agree or disagree with Emily in regards to relationships? Do you think it's better for the relationship to end all at once or instead of being murdered by degrees? I hope Emily's challenging you. Thank you.